Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a big show lined up for you. Let's get right on into it. All right, folks, the ACC collapse. Where will the 8 teams go that are involved with the ACC, 7 of which are in the ACC? And also, Nico got dissed. I can't have that. So we're going to get into all this, and I'm a little bit late today. I wasn't stuck at work like normal.
Drink it up, big boss! All right, drink it up, gambler.
No. I didn't have to swing the Kaiser blade.
Some folks call it a sling blade. I call it a Kaiser blade.
But anyway, I was out hitting golf balls. Finally had a good day to go out there. It's been so cold all weekend. So anyway, let's get on with this. And this is on A to Z Sports by Zach Reagan. It says, former Alabama QB says there were things that irritated him about Nico's performance in the Citrus Bowl. I can go ahead and tell you I wasn't irritated. Not one bit. Guy scores 4 touchdowns and he's irritated. Should have been 5. Anyway, let's see what he's got to say. He said, I would probably just say staying in the pocket, being patient in the pocket. He said, you watch the bowl game. He said, it's one game. It's a tough one to put so much stock into. Said, Nico, yeah, there were some positive moments in that game against Iowa. I also thought there were some missed throws. I thought he left the pocket too early. I thought he left the pocket to his right too early. There's just things that irritated me about the performance as well.
How dare you?
Granted, first start, hey, you got to feel good about it. The kid got sacked 6 times. 6. Yeah, he might have left a little early. You want to know why? We had 3 offensive linemen that were either hurt or opted out. So he had 40% of his normal offensive line, and Iowa's a very good defense. McElroy acts like their defense isn't any good. The front line, I mean. He said, everybody's making it out to be, oh, that was against an Iowa defense. He said, y'all, Iowa's defense is not super elite when playing against teams with speed, so I don't think it was a great matchup for Iowa, but I also will be really interested to see how much he can grow from one place to another, et cetera, blah, 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 blah. First of all, Iowa had the number 4 scoring defense in the country, and their front line on defense is very good. So, look, they got 6 sacks against him, which is a lot. That is a ton. That's why we went out and got a 5-star Lance Hurd from LSU, because we've got to secure our offensive line and get more guys up there to protect Nico. I thought he did an outstanding job. He was back there running for his life, and the guy scores 4 touchdowns. And he would have had the 5th had our receiver not stopped. He threw a perfect 50-yard bomb, and our receiver must have lost it in the sun or something, because it would have landed literally right there. It was the prettiest pass you ever saw. So anyway, Greg McElroy, he's a former Alabama guy. And look, he's used to sitting back there, having his afternoon paper, drinking some tea, enjoying a cigar while he waits for one of his 5-star wide receivers to open up. And then all his 5-star offensive linemen back in the day when Saban had a huge advantage on everybody with talent. Yeah, that's easy to have all kinds of patience, McElroy. This guy's worse than Nick Lachey.
Stay out of it, Nick Lachey.
Yeah, stay out of it, McElroy. These guys that played for Alabama, they got all the answers, don't they? You know what the answers are? Oh, just surround myself with 5-stars everywhere I look. Jeez, give me a break. Nico was awesome in that game. First game ever, he scores 4 touchdowns. The kid's got a nose for the end zone, a la Hendon Hooker, only he's smoother. So we'll see how he goes. That's one of the best first games I've ever seen against a top 10 defense. All right, now we're going to get into the ACC, which is collapsing. Look, we've got a lawsuit by FSU in 2 different states. You've got a lawsuit by Clemson now, which are that's their top 2 teams, is FSU and Clemson. And they see they're getting left behind. The SEC and the Big Ten are getting a lot more money. Clemson and FSU are teams that expect to be able to compete at the top 10 level. Well, if you're $20, $30 million behind every year and it's only going to get worse, you got to do something. You got to get out of that mess. So they're suing because the grant of rights and the penalty to leave is like over $500 million.
That's like saying, I want a bajillion dollars.
Which is crazy. And of course, their argument is that the penalties are so obscene that they're not even lawful. So that's why they're suing. And if even one of them gets out, that's the recipe that all the rest of them can use, because then you've set a precedent. And you just need one judge. And they've got, 3 right now. And this story is on 247 by Brad Crawford. Talks about college football realignment, projecting where all these teams are going to go. And the first one he talks about are the Miami Hurricanes. And everybody's got a different opinion on this. And I'm going to take the AAU heavily into consideration when I figure out where I think these teams are going to go. And if you don't know what the AAU is, it's the Association of American Universities. It's sort of the hoi polloi of research and development with colleges, and it's a real feather in their cap. And these folks, they think highly of themselves.
Pardon me, would you have any Grey Poupon? But of course.
Yeah, they definitely use Grey Poupon. But anyway, that's going to play a role as to where these teams go, because the Big Ten is real high on that. And here the writer talks about how they think Miami's kind of in a difficult spot because there aren't a ton of spots left in the Big Two, in this writer's opinion, a lot of people's opinion. I think there is going to be room, and Miami is kind of in a unique situation. They are a member of the AAU as of 2023. I'm almost wondering if that's why they got into that. I could be wrong. It may be because they use Grey Poupon. I don't know. But anyway, they are. And that would make them prime for two reasons for the Big Ten. Number one, having that distinction. And number two, Big Ten wants to get into Florida for recruiting purposes and for TV and all that kind of stuff. So Miami, I think, would be a prize for the Big Ten. And they don't care. Look, you can be in Timbuktu. They'll make you part of the Big Ten. As you've seen, they're West Coast, Northeast, everywhere you can go. So they want to be down in the South, and Miami would do that for them. So I see Miami going to the Big Ten. That's my opinion. There are people talking about the Big 12. That's just a sideways move. That doesn't make sense for Miami. They need to be trying to go to the Big Ten, and I think that's where they'll wind up. The Virginia Cavaliers, once again, AAU, and they are a member and have been for quite a while. And Virginia's got a great TV market. They'd make a perfect member as far as a region, which, like I said, I don't know if Big Ten cares about that anymore, but it makes perfect sense. It would join up perfectly. And I think Virginia would be a very good school for the Big Ten. I would prefer them to go there. I think that makes a lot of sense. What they shouldn't do is tie Virginia Tech to Virginia and make them go wherever the other one doesn't go. I think Virginia Tech ought to go to the SEC. That's my opinion. It just makes a lot more sense. And Virginia Tech is not part of the AAU, so that makes them not a good fit for the Big Ten. And that really is very important to the Big Ten. But I will tell you this, Virginia Tech is working on trying to become part of the AAU, and they haven't gotten there yet. So if they do get that accreditation, maybe they wind up at the Big Ten. We'll see. The Clemson Tigers, I think this is a perfectly obvious one. They need to go to the SEC. They're a perfect fit. They're in the South. They've got a very good football team, an excellent one. They've won natties. They got the Dominator. Pretty obvious fit. Now, the South Carolina Gamecocks are not going to be happy about this. Absolutely not. They are like this. I'm telling you, they will not want them in the SEC, but I don't think they'll be able to stop it. Texas A&M couldn't stop Texas. So I think those days are over of being able to stop a team. And Clemson's not a member of the AAU, so that makes them not a good fit for the Big Ten. So the obvious answer is SEC. And they want to be one of the first two out so they can have a better chance of joining one of the Big Two. And I don't know if they've talked to the conferences or not, but probably have, if I had to guess. Now we got to talk about North Carolina and NC State. North Carolina is a part of the AAU. So that makes them a very good fit for the Big Ten, and that's a great market that the Big Ten really wants. And again, that's a very good fit for their region. Both Virginia and North Carolina would be crown jewels for the Big Ten to grab up and pick up that TV market. Whereas NC State, there's talk of them going to the Big 12. I think NC State should come to the SEC. That's a good fit. It would also give the SEC North Carolina as far as a TV market, and the SEC would want that. I really think the SEC should get Virginia Tech and North Carolina State. That gives them those two big TV markets. Their fan base is strong. Virginia Tech is very strong. And I think NC State's pretty strong too. I think they would travel and they would show up. So that's what I would do there. I would split both of those up. And North Carolina is going to try to stop that. They're actually trying to set it up to where it's really hard for North Carolina State to separate themselves from North Carolina. And that's that Bubba Cunningham dude. So working around him, I don't know that he's going to be very cooperative, but he's not going to turn down an extra $30 million a year.
Woo! 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 Ow! Love that money.
And I think the Big Ten would be crazy not to take North Carolina. Not only do you get a solid football program and a great TV market, but you also get a heck of a basketball team. The Tar Heels, they have an amazing history. Now we got to talk about Notre Dame. And this is the team that has no conference, but they sort of pretend to be a conference member of the ACC. Most of their teams are part of the ACC except for like the ice hockey team or something, which I guess because the ACC doesn't have ice hockey. But anyway, Notre Dame should join the Big Ten. That would make perfect sense. I think they play like 5 games against the ACC, and they sort of are kind of members of the ACC, but not really. I see them joining the Big Ten. That just makes perfect sense, and they would be a great get for the Big Ten. I do not see them fitting into the SEC at all. And Notre Dame is also an AAU member, and I'll just show you that. And as you can see right here, as of 2023, and so was Miami. I don't know if that has anything to do with the Big Ten or any of that. Maybe they've been working on that for years. I would have thought Notre Dame would have been that for the last 50 years. But anyway, that makes them the perfect candidate for the Big Ten. And again, I don't think they're a good fit for the SEC at all. And that's nothing personal against the Notre Dame people. I think that would be, that's another crown jewel. That's probably the get that's out there that's independent or not part of the Big Two, which let's just call them what they are. The SEC and the Big Ten are now the Big Two. If you're not part of that, you aren't part of the cool clique. And that's just the way that it is. You're either a T-Bird or you're one of the pink ladies. That's what they were. The T-Birds or the pink ladies. You got to be one of those two or you're not cool. And one thing I don't agree with on this is that they're projecting Big Ten for FSU. I do not see that. I think Florida State would be a much better fit for the SEC. They're very obviously a Southern school, number one. Number two, they would fit right in. As far as their fan base, they have a very strong fan base. I'm sure the Big Ten would like to get them, but my understanding is they are not a member of the AAU, so they wouldn't fit in that. So anyway, I think I would just split those 8 teams kind of right down the middle, and that's Virginia, Big Ten, Virginia Tech, SEC, North Carolina, Big Ten, NC State, SEC, Clemson, Florida State, SEC, Miami, Notre Dame, Big Ten. Everybody's happy. That's the perfect way to split that up. ACC can grab some more teams, Memphis, et cetera, and just be one of the secondary conferences. They can still survive. They're going to have a secondary conference, but you're going to have your top 50, 60 teams will be the Big Two, and then they can live in that second tier. And there's a lot of schools that are already in the second tier. Let's not act like that's not the case. It'll just be more obvious, and the finances are different already anyway, and pretty much always have been. So this would fix it right there. And I'd be fine with those 4 teams for the SEC, and I'm sure the Big Ten would be thrilled because they got Notre Dame, which Notre Dame's a great get. I just wish they weren't so standoffish about joining a conference.
Ew! Get off of me! Ugh, as if.
So anyway, if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Let's continue to cover all this big college news. And if you've not subscribed, right here on your right, my left, hit this little button. Doesn't cost you a dime. I would certainly appreciate it. Helps me out. And right over here is the most recent video YouTube thinks you'll enjoy based on your viewing history. And we'll see you next time on Sports Talk Jay.